Hey there, I'm Caden Rains, and welcome to my basement. Today is our last build of spooky season. We're looking at two builds on the smaller side, but they're of a theme that goes along with the Halloween era that we don't get a lot in LEGO, those being graveyard sets. One is the Graveyard Mystery from the Hidden Side series, which unfortunately isn't around anymore. This is actually one of the first Hidden Side sets I've ever gotten around to, but I picked up a bunch when they were... Some when they came to stores, some when they went on sale. I guess they didn't sell very well because the entire final wave just never appeared in stores near me, but whatever. The other is the Rise of Voldemort set from the fourth movie, I believe, and book, I believe. But anyway, it takes place at a graveyard, so that's why we're looking at it. So, we're going to take a look first at the Graveyard Mystery set from Hidden Side, and then we'll go to the Harry Potter one. So let's get to it. So here is a closer look at the Graveyard Mystery set. The characters as they're listed on the box. I know there was a online show, I believe, for it, but the names that they're given are Jack, Parker, Spencer the Ghost Dog, which I especially appreciate, and I'm glad he comes in some of the other sets I have, so I can stick one in like Sanctum Sanctorum, because I know there's a ghost dog in the comics. And then we got Mr. Branson, and then this is an alternate head in each of the Hidden Side sets. Whoever gets possessed usually has at least an alternate head and hair, along with sometimes another accessory. And there's also a skeleton over here. I know that's technically a kind of minifig, but I don't usually think of it that way, so, you know, to each his own, I suppose. Those are the characters, and I believe most of the pieces that were unique to these sets at one point, like this hat hood combo and the beanie with the braids, I believe they've been put in other sets and in other colors by now. In fact, I know they have. I just don't know if they're from sets I've built or from sets that I plan to build. But they each come with the, I believe they're siblings, if memory serves, what little I ever looked into this, but Spencer and Parker, or Jack and Parker, Spencer's the dog, I just said that, but they each come with a phone because there was an app aspect built into these sets, and you're supposed to use your phone to play a game with them. I don't think that app's still around. If it is, great, but that's why they each have a phone with this ghost effect, because they're supposed to be revealing the ghost. And that had something to do with this over here, which we'll get to in a minute. So, Mr. Branson is fine. There's nothing unique about him. I mean, he's got good printing. In fact, all of them, if you remember what I like to complain about, they all have good leg printing. It's not like Mr. Branson's is the most detailed with the, you know, I work on the graveyard grounds, get into the dirt kind of thing, but both of the kids or teens or whatever they're supposed to be have leg printing as well, with her having rips in her jeans, and then he has, it's basically just black jeans, but he's also got this dog charm, which maybe that's where the dog ghost comes in. It's because he's linked to that charm. That's sort of a guess based on watching Supernatural when I was younger, but who knows. Anyway, I think all three are pretty well done, so good on them. And like I already said, the dog, I like that. And because he's, like, the way it's draped at the bottom, if you printed this in a single color, or molded it in a single color, you could still say it was just dog fur. He's just a hairy dog. So I don't think they've used this mold again. At least I don't remember seeing it. But if they ever decide to, it's not like it wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't be standard, I guess. But, you know, that's me. And then the skeleton's just a skeleton. Comes with his key. And it actually comes with a duplicate of the key, but that's just because of the way the keys are molded. So, whatever. There we go. So as far as the build, the actual graveyard, it's it's mostly for looks, the way a lot of these sets are. Like, it's not like there's a back to the little storage shed over here or anything. But as far as looks go, it's about what you could ask for a graveyard. You've got headstones. This kind of pulls up, but that's, again, I believe for the app aspect. But it's got, they're stickers, but it has them in several places to give more detail. In fact, these are stickers. The stones on the side of the gate are stickers, but they look fine. Yeah. So this shed over here is what is also supposed to be one of the haunted components. So inside you got a leaky faucet and then tools in a bin. But on top here, you've got a tree that can move a little bit. It's got stuff coming out the back, or off the side, I suppose I should say, that acts as levers, so you can move the tree arms around. And it does kind of look like a face. I believe this is one of those times where maybe in the app something would happen, but whatever. We're not looking into the app because I don't think it exists anymore. And then, as I said, this bit here was definitely part of it, because this build is definitely in other things. It's not always got this front face, but if you turn this, it shows different colors, and those colors activate something in the game, quote unquote, that's part of the app. So that's there. This can also go up, and again, it's got the color, but if you want to bury a kid alive, there you go. He's buried. I don't know what Jack ever did to you, but you buried him. So it's a neat little build. There's not like a lot to write home about. I do have plans for this and the other build to be filling up some space behind the last two builds we did for spooky season, the Sanderson house and the Stranger Things house. But I am going to have to modify them. For this one, it'll mostly be taking a bunch of the stuff here and taking it off these plates and just fitting it into the extra space I have to fill. There's not going to be much use for these plates because I use the base plates. But I do think overall it's a good looking effect for a graveyard that we don't get very much, which is the whole point of this video. Because it's morose, I suppose. But between this, the one we're about to look at, and the headstones that came with the Sanderson house, I feel like I've got a nice little spot of a graveyard to fill up. So we're going to do that. But anyway, now that we've looked at the graveyard mystery set from Hidden Side, let's put it aside and take a look at the Rise of Voldemort Harry Potter set. So here is the Harry Potter set. Again, it's called The Rise of Voldemort because it's the part of the story where Voldemort rises more or less from the grave. We've got a year 4 Harry Potter. So he's got the mid-legs. He's got his name on the back because he was part of the competition. But this isn't very different from most other Harry Potter figs. The main difference between the Harry Potter figs are the lengths of his legs. Mid-legs means it's middle stories, middle books or movies. Short means it's the first 2 or 3, and regular legs means it's from the last 2 or 3. So there we go. But otherwise, if you don't have a Harry Potter, there's a Harry Potter. He's got the scar and everything. And this was probably a specific Death Eater in the book, but in general, it's just a Death Eater. There's no identifying marks, no alternate face or anything. So you could really say this was just about anybody, and there's no evidence to the contrary as long as they are a Death Eater. So otherwise, it is neat looking. I wish the robe part had printing, but it's fine, I guess. Then we've got Voldemort, Risen. Again, could use some printing, but otherwise you've got, a maliciously happy boy right here because he's risen back to life finally. And then Rat Tail, I believe, he was Scabbers, and then I can't remember his real name, but he's got his replacement hand because he had to give that up. And he's actually got an alternate face where he's sort of worried, and then his other face where he's a little more angry, and he has the dagger which he used to cut off, which was used to cut off his hand, I believe. But there we go. As an accessory, we've got the trophy that was used to teleport Harry and Diggory to this spot. It would have been kind of funny if they included a Diggory fig because he'd probably be dead. But I guess they didn't want to make a dead kid a minifig. But that's just, I think that would have been funny. Darkly funny, but whatever. But that's there. So it's neat that they included that. It uses the Tesseract piece. I mean, it's just a 1x1 stud, but it's the Tesseract color translight blue that they use from the Marvel sets, but it looks good. So there we go. It also comes, because he showed up first this way in the movie and the book, it comes with baby Voldemort. This is the same mold they've used for other babies that aren't like studdable. Technically there's an anti-stud on the back, but usually you have to have, it won't fit on this because it needs additional bits. So it usually has like a back connector piece that's used for it, or front, but it's cute, the fact that they included it. It goes in the pot in the imagery along with bone, which I think is the replacement for the hand that gets cut off, as well as Harry's blood. That's what the red pieces are. So, boil the baby. I do also enjoy this this build of a Grim Reaper that they've got there. I might have used a different piece for the chine of his blade. That's this part. It isn't normally a sword in a regular scythe, but other than that, I think it's pretty good. It is the Tom Riddle and the Masters of Death bit. I know that's not what it's called, but I'm blanking and I'm not looking it up right now. Those are both stickers, which is a bit disappointing, but it's fine. But I do think that looks fine, and that's the parts of this that I'll most specifically use as my little graveyard I'll be putting together. But finally, there is a play feature, and it's specifically for Voldemort, because you have to take his wand off, even though in the instructions they show him with his wand, and it does not work with his wand. So after they put baby Voldemort in the pot, don't boil me, Death Eater. Too bad. Whatever. Spell happens, and you flick this, and he rises. Oh, it's the Lord of Darkness himself. It's quite a thing. But anyway, that's the play feature. It's there. I'm never going to be one that's really like excited about these play features, but it's there. Like with the other set, I will be somewhat disassembling this when I actually make my graveyard section, but I do think it's fine overall. I'll primarily be using these two bits, although because they'll probably be behind the witch's house, I'll keep the cauldron and maybe the baby, just to be funny. But otherwise, I think both of these sets do a fair job of getting the graveyard appearance going. It's not something we see much. In fact, these two sets and the Sanderson house are probably the most graveyard, tombstone, headstone, whatever, that you'll see in Lego. I'm sure there's some other sets that I either don't have or I'm not remembering, but outside some of the other old stuff, like maybe the monster fighters with the zombies, you just don't see graveyard stuff that much. So none of it's scary. It's really hard to make Lego scary, truly. But I think they did a good job making it fit with the haunted stuff they were going for, with the hidden side, and the part from the story in Harry Potter that took place at a graveyard, and made them kid-friendly enough. So let's go see where I'm going to sit them in the city. Well, again, we're still in the neighborhood section, even though I know it's not going to stay there as is, because, like I said, both of these sets will need to be modified. But let's go plop them down just to get an idea. Alright, so this is obviously not very good and not very fitting at the moment, but this is the general space they're going to take up. So, as you can see, I modified the Stranger Things house. I want to do some more interior work before I go into that, so I'm not showing it off right now. But I've got these, I think you'd consider them 1/8 plates on either side of the house. I kind of think of them as 1/8 size base plates. But anyway, I've got them on the back and front of the Stranger Things house, so it would have a little more space in front of it. So it'd have a spacer between it and the next house that I build. But we'll see. I might swap a half plate back here. But again, I'm gonna wait till I actually get the graveyard stuff off, so I see how much space is taken up. Same with behind the Sanderson house. And then I'll do a combination of the gate from the Sanderson house and the gate from this build. Maybe just put this gate at the other end. But they'll be the entrance next to the Flintstones house if that stays there. But while it's not worth really looking at too in depth at the moment, because it's going to need to be modified a lot to fit, whether I keep half a plate or a quarter plate or an 1/8 plate back there. It's still gonna it's gonna need a lot of work. But that's kind of the Halloween section, the spooky season section now. So in future years, I can pop up some of the monsters from Monster Fighters, some of the zombies I've got from other stuff, and who knows what else. But it's coming along. The neighborhood is still going to be a while, but it's getting there. And then we'll move on to that corner back there and fill out a little more of the city, and so on and so forth. But what do you think of these 2 graveyard sets? I know they're not super big, and maybe they're not very interesting to you, but let me know down below if they are or aren't. So I think that they'll fit in once I modify them. Mostly the actual graves won't change much. It's the stuff they're built on that I'm going to change. So let me know if you think that's a good idea. If you've got either of these sets, do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you think that they weren't worth the money? And if you remember Hidden Side, let me know about that, because I'm really just kind of getting into it for the first time with this build. I think I've built one other set, and it was like a boat. So I've got some more though, and I'll be using them. So let me know if you think they are going to be useful in my builds going forward, and if they'll fit the city that I'm trying to build. Otherwise, I hope you had a good time in my basement today, and I'll see you in the next one.